Look at that. Close your eyes for a minute and Lucy sneaks up on you. So, welcome to back to the Jukai game. Um, I thought we
I'm your host, Kirk Fisher Roach. Tonight's contestants.
Hello, Alex.
Sorry, what?
um, Tonight I thought it would be good just to check in with you all about uh, hearing what notes, if any, no expectation that you have notes about your the pure precepts. But if someone did want to share something around the words that they were thinking of, it'd be good to start adding words to some of these things. And again, as we did before, it might be helpful too. If you have a pen and paper nearby, just to scribble down some thoughts, phrases, questions as we go along here. Um, but I just wanted to say a little bit about what we're going to be starting the pure precepts, the grade precepts, and this is sort of starts to feel a little bit serious. But I just wanted to say about what we're doing here, finding and expressing our own way of holding the precepts, but also holding yourself open towards each of these. I'm told that in New Zealand, people wear those green uh, jade necklaces, and when you're wearing one of those necklaces, I'm told you don't wear them into a bar. You don't wear them when you're cursing because you want this to be something that you're growing towards and to honor it. You don't do those things which are seen as degrading yourself around that thing. And that's a very helpful way of holding a practice of your life. And so the same thing sort of goes on the precepts that we're growing into them or growing towards them. And in doing so, you you know you won't arrive at any final answers for these precepts questions in the next 3 months or so. Uh, you might not arrive at any final answer for the rest of your life. Hopefully, you won't. But at the same time, there you do need to start making a choice about how am I going to express this in my life? How am I going to reconcile what is relative and taking out the garbage and making sure that I don't hurt my friends' feelings and I don't degrade the earth with my actions, and at the same time also the empty side, which is that the vastness, the wonder, and everything. And we're always reconciling in a dance these two things, and these precepts are one of the most poignant for me ways that we start to do this. So, Lucy, you made a wonderful comment about maintaining, just looking at our notes, you made that wonderful comment about maintaining the precepts in the garden. Did you have anything more you'd like to say about that now? That seemed to really touch me. I think it touched a lot of people.
I don't think that there's anything more to say about it at the moment. Um, yeah.
Well, perhaps someone else has something that you'd like to say about not only Lucy's comment, but this idea of maintaining the precepts. Well, I'll just throw it open to all three of the preset the pure precepts. I vow to practice all the precepts. Maintain the precepts. Practice all good and to save all beings.
Well, I did post something as well
Yes, I
about
saw
um yeah, I read Lucy's post a few times actually because I was trying to grasp it to see it from that perspective. And I can, but for me it was more maintaining was more like coming back, continually coming back and reminding myself of those. But the analogy still, it applied in that way. And I think Lucy's application in a sort of an organic way is really beautiful. I can be I can often think about things in a very dry way as opposed to a poetic way. So I'd like to be a bit more poetic. But I also noticed after Jen posted hers that I had not even seen the word good in Dharma. So I think that's really interesting. And I noticed that as I think more and more about these things, that I feel like I'm losing clarity, which is probably not true. It probably means that I never had clarity in the first place. And now that I'm really delving into it, I feel like it's becoming more blurry.
Yes.
Maybe it was more before, it was more like words on a page. And now
Yeah.
I'm trying to get into it. It's like, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is a common way of encountering learning. We all of a sudden discover how much we were ignorant before we start to grow. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the funny thing is that I've always felt it and always agreed with it because I've been interested in Buddhism and Zen for a very long time. But now that I'm studying it, I feel like I'm actually moving away from it. I don't think that's true, but maybe I'm too much in my head, perhaps thinking about it too much.
Hmm. Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah, it would be worth pursuing that. You know, just what that means for you. You mentioned the good in good dharma. You hadn't seen that. Was that particularly significant for you?
Well, it was because, as I said, the more I think about it, the more I seem to, or the less I seem to be able to separate Buddha from Dharma, and then to realize that it was actually about good Dharma. And
Yeah.
I have to think about it in a fresh way and what that actually means. I mean, what's a bad Dharma?
You know, the word that's translated into good is kalyana in Sanskrit, and it's the same word as in kalyana mitra, which is, you know, a spiritual friend or a good friend. But that word kalyana can also be translated as beautiful, the beautiful dharma, and think about how that sort of changes the flavor of it. That, you know, good can have a sense of moral righteousness or correctness, you know, and sort of thing. But to call something a beautiful dharma has this much more potential for me, and and that might be helpful in terms of taking this apart. But what does that mean? You know, the word beautiful in Dine. I used to study a lot of native indigenous traditions in the U.S. In Dine is Hozo, which means beautiful. And just as a spiritual act, they used to walk and say, with beauty above me, I walk. May with beauty below me, may I walk. With beauty around me, may I walk. As a way of just continually maintaining the beauty of this world and my connection with it. And particularly like when Vietnam vets came back from Vietnam and were traumatized. That was a big part of the tradition, is going out with them every day with beauty below me, with beauty behind me. You know, just to reconnect with that beauty. I'm going on a little bit of a tangent here, but I'm just saying that there are different ways that we kind of hold that word good that might be helpful.
Well, it makes me think of Thich Nhat Hanh, who talks a lot about nature and
Hmm.
that he says that a lot of people think of heaven as being after this life, whereas he sees heaven right here and now. And you just have to look around and you can see it, the beauty of the trees and the greenery and the stillness and the flower. Just looking at the flower, stillness, and the Buddha essence in the flower. And the rock, of course, saturated with water.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And we're taking the precepts, which means we're turning towards the world in its beauty, in its goodness, and we are seeing our role in making it so. You know, that our actions are a part of that goodness and that beauty.
Mhm.
Other thoughts that come up for people.
For me, I was really struck by that quote that you put in, or that snippet of that conversation about, this is something that you teach. Was it something you teach a child or something like that?
Oh,
And
yeah.
then the line of like, yeah, but it's still something that most 80-year-olds fail to do, or something like that. That's yeah, and I think the line I really like about this the most is like practice good dharma, or good dharma, because it is such a simple thing, and like it's obvious, right? We should be doing good in the world, but it's nice to have that gentle reminder of that, I guess, in a sense. My analytical mind really wants to know the difference between practice all good dharma and saving the many beings, because in my mind that's kind of like the same thing. But I don't know, is there a difference between those two things, do you think?
It's a great question, and I would love to just flat out an answer. But what do you
Yeah.
think? What are you thinking
Well,
around that? Just use the same, different.
I think because saving the many beings is something that comes up all the time. Like it's in the great vows, it's in um it's so many different little snippets of things. I don't know, I kind of see it as like saving the many beings is the kind of like the purpose and the path that you follow, whereas like the Dharma is like the whole truth of the universe or something like that. I don't know. I don't know really how to put it. Perhaps like one is the truth, the other is the action. I don't know.
Yeah. That's an interesting way of putting it. That the Dharma is the Tao. And when we're in line with the Dharma, we are not suffering, and we're able to practice all good. That happens naturally. And also, when we're practicing the Dharma, we see that we are one amongst 7 billion creatures on this earth, and that we're always everything we do affects every other creature here. So how do we, in terms of saving all beings? It's an ongoing dance in that way. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
In a way, we can think of the 3 vows of refuge and the 3 pure precepts as sort of like trunks of roots of a tree that are going down, and they sort of form the basis of everything that we the roots of our actions. Or you can think of it a mandala as well. But at the center of them is that groundedness of who we are, that what we discover in our zazen over and over and over again. That sense of that place of realization of awakeness that is the roots of all of that what follows. But just maintaining that, when we talk about these 6 different things that we've been talking about, it's really spreading outwards from that one essentialness that we are. Did I make any sense there?
Yep. Yep. So with these pure precepts, do we need to kind of be thinking about a sentence to respond to this during the vows as well? Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So I take refuge. I vow to save all beings. I vow that I'll be nice to my little brother, and whatever form that takes for you.
Nice.
I vow to only hit my little brother with soft objects.
Yeah, so 1 sentence or 2 sentences. By the way, that's something we have to think about. There's 7 of us, which is actually quite a big number for a group of people taking Jukai. So in this precept ceremony, if we can keep it down to the essence, it'll shorten the ceremony to a reasonable amount too. But yeah. that's we can worry about that later.
Yeah. Well,
So
luckily I booked a flight for 6 p.m. that evening, so we'll have time.
okay, yeah. Well,
Don't even know what it is.
Shannon, that machine that is Shannon is on this now. She's booked the room till 3.
Yep.
We're getting catering. We're doing all this.
Oh, wow.
Sanga's going to show up. You all are welcome to bring family members if you'd like, or if you have them, to observe this. It's going to be
They
a
would
big
be
show.
I was wondering, the Hobart Sangha have requested a Zoom link so they
Oh,
can
absolutely. We got to do that. Yeah.
because they'd like to watch on from home. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah. Hmm.
Goggle box or something.
What did you say, Bronwyn? I missed it.
Like goggle box or something like that.
I know that's a word, but I don't know what a goggle box is. I can find out later. I'll Google it later.
The TV show.
Oh, okay. So
Mm.
I'm just thinking might be, as you start to develop your language, feel free to we'll set aside some time to start talking 101 about some of your responses. I'll get you to send me your rough drafts and we can talk about them sort of like Dokusan style as we go.
Mhm.
But it's also really helpful if you start to have any to share it with the group, just so people can start to, that's how Kieran did it. That's great.
Mm.
I'd like to try to use some of that myself or whatever.
Yeah.
I've got something that I like that I might use.
Yeah, let's hear it.
So this is from taking refuge, and with your invitation, Kirk, to take refuge as, and then the invitation as well to, this is about the Sangha, and to think of the Sangha as broadly as possible. And I started thinking of the Sangha as just all living beings on the face of the planet. And that was really gorgeous to rest in that. And so Sangha as all the beings. What did I write? Every animal, plant, fungi on the face of the planet is so very moving to me. That's what I am. And then the statement was, I am one and all of the many beings.
Mm. Yes,
That's lovely.
that is lovely. Yeah. Thank you, Karen. Yeah.
And I also, I wanted to share that I notice, so I've been journeying with the Tao Te Ching for a long time now. And this word Dharma it doesn't really evoke much in me. I don't have any opinions on it, which is fine, but I don't have much else either. But I noticed as soon as you used the word Tao before, something came alive in me, and so I'm just noticing that out loud.
Yeah. Dharma is a hard word to nail down because it's used in so many different ways in Hindu traditions, different Buddhist traditions, and it is a hard one. I looked up 7 different definitions of it to see what it meant, and I was like, it's not any closer. But using the word the Tao or the workings, for me has been very helpful in nailing it. But particularly that idea that the Dharma is the great harmony. When we are acting in line with the Tao, we are in line with the way the universe actually is. Yeah.
That's
So.
helpful because that's something I can relate to. Yeah.
Yeah. It's part of the tradition too of having brought the Indian words to China, which is so grounded. We don't talk about emptiness; we talk about the sky, sunyata, in Chinese, and so that it's helpful to make it concrete in that way. So we're going to turn now to the grave precepts. Whoop. Hello, doggy. Someone's coming home. Oh boy. Oh boy.
Yeah, she's waiting for her owner to come and pick her up, so she's very excited.
Yeah, I see that. So the 10 precepts, the first five are very much grounded in our actions as they affect other beings. And so there's no killing, no, not killing, not stealing, not lying, not abusing sex, and not abusing drugs. And 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 each of those, has a real place, in our world in terms of what is it to tend life? What is it to uh, be sneaky and greedy in terms of how we hold ourselves in the world? Each of these things is very personal things that we need to really consider. And then the next five are more related to the community sphere and how we act in relationship, how we act in the sangha, how we act in groups, and so forth, and not discussing the faults of others, what is lost, and when we avidly discuss the faults of others and make ourselves look good in our minds, what does that do to us and to other people? So each of these also are, as you know, I think I've said this before, but just to review it quickly, each of these are accompanied by words of the Bodhidharma and Dogen. And the Bodhidharma's words at the beginning of each precept are very much in the realm of the relative. Please do take out your garbage and separate your plastics from your glasses, and make sure that you are nice to people and so forth. That we take responsibility of ourselves as people of consequence. That our actions uh, rub up against other people's lives. So don't let your problems become the problems of others. That's very much in the line of what Bodhidharma is talking about. Oh, Alex had to jump into, what did he say?
Meeting.
Meeting. Is he gone?
He's gone.
Damn, that was so quick.
Let's put him in charge of something. No. Dogen is the non-dual, the absolute voice, the vastness that arises inside the ordinary, and the sacred that manifests itself in our lives. So we have Bodhidharma and Dogen, and in the middle is the precept itself. And there's a sort of dance or reconciling, balancing of each of these things. And that's what our lives are, really, as we go into this, we start to see how there's a great delight in this, that we aren't just one or the other. We're always moving between those two sides of things. So I'm just pausing in case somebody wants to add something, subtract something that comes up for you around that before we go into not killing. All right. Well, I'll mention that each of the precepts has this word I in it. I take up the precepts. And it's worth looking at who that I is. This isn't just I, Kirk. I'm speaking from a different place, perhaps, and it'll be part of our job to start discovering what that I is as we go along. But I take up the way of not killing, which is a big one. Life and death doesn't get bigger. And as we talk about this, I mentioned before this idea that we are sharing our lives with just innumerable creatures all over this world. At a minimum, there's 7 billion, but there's probably more than that. You probably know better than me, Jen, what that is, but that number is. But there's no living that does not connect with the entirety of this writhing, seething, systemic wonder. And we can't track, and when we start to consider it this way, we can't really track where do I end and you begin, and what is part of me that doesn't connect with my life. But how do I hold myself in this when I have needs? When I have needs, it means something else. I'm taking those needs from something else. When I have an appetite for something, that means something else might go inside my mouth. How do I start to balance where I and others find that balance of becoming and being eaten and being used, and having resources consumed. And also, what of other ways of killing? Being heedless with other people's emotions, squashing my own dreams. That's a type of killing as well. So with every moment of separation, we can count this as a taking of a life in some way. How do I take up non-killing in this way? So we did an exercise on Tuesday night. I think a few of you were there for that. I might just take a few minutes now to do this again. We can divide up in pairs to do this, and I'll do it with one person as well. In going into this precept, we want to lead to an aspiration to not kill, and that's wonderful. But we're talking about a moment of pain too. That there's some separation that happened where we take up the way of killing in a way, and one way of putting it, we need to get to know our killer first. It's gone very dark very suddenly.
I like it. Let's go there.
But if a kid, Lucy, if one of your kids fell off their bike because they were riding down that hill where you live really fast, you wouldn't go outside and say, you should practice not riding recklessly. The first thing you'd probably do is go down, pick up the kid, hold them in their pain, and help them to clean them up a bit. And then once they sort of settle down again, then you look at what is it to ride recklessly and why not to do it and so forth. And in the same way, it's really helpful to take up these precepts from that moment of pain first. What causes or what emotion was I feeling? What triggered me into that moment? And what are some of the triggers that I have to work with in my life where I fall into separation? And what does that triggered self need? And how do I, now that I recognize that and I've been cleaned up and patted on the head, and my wounds have been scraped off, metaphorically, what is it though? How do I want to change that story for myself? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So if we could, maybe would you all be into just doing about what time is it? Yeah, a 10-minute exercise. It'll take about 5 minutes. And what I'd like you to do is not talk together. I'd like just one person to take 5 minutes to talk about their experience of this. Here's some of the ways I feel like I kill. Here's some of the ways that I am feeling pain of separation that result in me killing. And just take some time and see what comes up for you. 5 minutes seems like a long time to do that, but see how it goes. And then we'll switch and the other person does that as well. But it's not a therapy session, and you're not there to help the person excuse it. Just listen and thank them for what they're sharing. Okay?
Okay. Will you give us a warning when it's 5 minutes? Are you able to do that? So we know to change?
I think I am able to do that. Well, two of us, me and someone else, will stay here in the main room so I can contact you. Bronwyn?
Just letting you know, last week you sent a message into our group saying, I don't know what you said, something like, let me know if you have a question. But I couldn't find a way to let you know. And I actually put something in the chat, but you couldn't see it, I think.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, you used to be able to send me a message, but once you stay in the main room, you stay in the main room with me. You and I can be one pair, if that's okay. And wait, am I doing this wrong? 1, 2, 3, 4. No.
Yes,
Oh, actually, I don't see anybody. All of you go to a different room. Yeah. Okay.
you can go and join us.
By ourselves?
No. You're going to go with us for another person. What is that? All right. So I'll send you a message in 5 minutes, and I'll just pop into the rooms just in case you have a question as well. Okay? Any questions before we go? All right. Off we go. You've purged your souls.
I'll be better at the precepts now.
Pardon?
I'll be better at the precepts now.
Any reflections or thoughts or insights that came up for you doing that exercise? I would ask you to share what you said, but what was that like doing that?
It's a bit purging in a way. I mean, to speak out loud something I'm aware of what's going on inside, and I can talk to people about it, but not in this way.
Mm.
And knowing that it's safe to talk to people in this group in this way.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Just to reiterate that idea of confidentiality, though, too. But yeah.
Mm.
Can I ask
really-
Bronwyn what you mean by in this way?
So I talked to Jen about what triggers me and how I feel and respond within when I am triggered by what other people do. And in a way, I'm killing a relationship or a friendship or by doing that. And so we're talking about not killing the precept and what it means in a Zen perspective, as opposed to talking to a friend where I might say, oh, geez, it's just, I just feel like shit because so-and-so spoke to me in that way. And now I feel really bad because, I don't know, just whatever, you don't go much further than that generally when you speak to a friend who's not into Zen.
Mm.
And they say, yeah, that happens to me too. And I really hate But I guess then I was able to just continue on through the questions that Kirk put forward and take it further steps, into what it actually means in terms of killing, as opposed to just feeling bad.
Mm.
Thanks, Brian.
I really appreciated hearing, like, obviously expressing what was on my mind, because that kind of helps kind of, unravel it and think about it in a little bit of a different way. But I really appreciated hearing Bronwyn's thoughts about that, because that was kind of like a concept of not killing that I hadn't even thought of or hadn't come across. So that was really lovely to, be able to really relate to what she was saying and be like, yeah, that's yeah.
It asks a lot of us, and I appreciate your courage and forthrightness and vulnerability in doing this. It's very helpful, though, I think. Like, I have things that I hold inside of myself, and this is one way that I sort of find myself killing off people in my life, metaphorically. And if I'm holding it in myself and I never share it with anybody, it can become a source of shame or a secret, or something that's really so bad I can't say it. But just to lay it out there can really help me then to see it as just another thing that happens in a human life. As my daughter's like, this is another thing that happens in human lives, and then we can deal with it. Yeah. Were you going to say something, Lucy, with that? You looked like you had an insight all of a sudden.
Yeah, no, I think when you said that, there was a very strong feeling when I was talking, and just a very strong bodily feeling. And it was, I don't know, there was, maybe a shame and fear, because I was talking about Ella, I'm almost talking about Ella, but yeah, it's a very, it's, there's a lot. There's a lot of ways that I can let the life grow more easily, I think, there, without killing off different things. Yeah. And definitely shame. Yeah. It's very good to express it.
I've got a quote here that Susan puts in her Red Thread Zen book. The Bodhidharma must live by the sufferer's standard and must be effective in aiding those who suffer. But to live by the sufferer's standard, I like that. We sort of have to be sufferers ourselves to be in that. And only then can we be of any use, once we are willing to go into any place and be in that moment and take what actions are needed, then we can be of use.
For me, I really enjoyed, sitting and sharing and being heard and getting to hear as well. And I noticed I was there it was Tuesday night, I think, and I noticed the desire, like I really value the opportunity to speak and be heard and to hear someone without it, the kind of interruption of conversation. But afterwards, I was like, after listening to you, Lucy, I was like, oh wow, this brings up so much stuff for me. Now I want to respond and kind of explore. And the other thing that came up actually before and it's returned after was when I heard you say, Kirk, about the example of like the child falling off the bike. I noticed I had this response or this reaction, which I had when you used the example the other day as well. And, I think you said something like, you don't go over there and like tell the child to, be careful. Like the first response is actually, hold them and see if they're okay. And I noticed how much hesitation and like hesitation there is to me in like with that response. Like there's a part of me that wants to do that, but something in my conditioning, in my thought around like not wanting to make things worse, not wanting to like like stuff like, oh, like there's a child, like I don't know this child, does this child want me to touch them? I don't know, like all this stuff comes up, and that kills, if I let it, that kills this just instinct to just like love and care and like move from there. And I was quite struck by that.
That's valuable. Thank you for that. Yeah. And of course, we can't go picking up other people's children, but if they fall off a bike, we can't kneel down with them and it's like, oh, are you okay?
Yeah, I mean, my sense is that when the response comes from the right place, when it comes from the place of not killing, what like it will, the right thing will do itself.
Yeah.
I wonder, Kirk, also in this sort of scenario, whether there's, trying to think of the words, some self empathy or compassion. If you don't help the child because you feel that you can't touch someone else's child or whatever, that you can make that choice out of empathy as well. Or
yeah, you're balancing up a number of factors, including how well do you know the child or the parent? Is there trust there? Is it going to scare it or make them worse? You're balancing all those things up. But you're right, though. There can be. The other day, someone was a woman and her young baby were walking in front of the clinic, just walking back and forth. I said, oh, that's funny. And then when I came into my clinic, the woman was trying to get in the public restroom and it was locked. So I opened the door. I said, would you like to come use our bathroom? She goes, oh my God, yes. We've all been there.
Yeah.
I said, here, let me hold your baby. I'm a trained father. Don't worry about it. And something about how it happened, she just said, okay. And she just handed over her baby to the stranger. And it was great. And at the end, the baby, the baby didn't want to go back to his mother.
Yeah.
And it was great. And at the end, the baby didn't want to go back to his mother. And it was great. And at the end, the baby didn't want to go back to his mother. And it was great. And at the end, the baby didn't want to go back to his mother. you're right. It was just like very natural and like, oh, here, I'm a trained father. Don't worry about this. I got this. And it's funny too because the women I work with came in and I'm sitting there holding the baby and they said, "What's this?" I said, "You thought I was fat, didn't you?" I was pregnant the whole time.
Just popped
Thanks for
out.
the second line. I didn't get it. I didn't get it until you said that one.
Yes,
I take up the way of not assuming. Is that in here somewhere?
There's something.
totally.
Well, I'm gonna go cook dinner for my wife, and I'm sure there's a precept about that. And I'm
Yep.
thinking we should sort of call this to a close. And thank you all for your time. It's been really, really lovely to hear how you are talking about this on the line and here too. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone.
Oh,
Thanks,
fantastic.
Kirk.
Thank
Thanks,
you, Kirk.
everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Yep.
Bye.
Thanks. See you.